Now I'm going to master and awaken the dough fruit. But before we eat it, let's test our luck here with an ADM. And spinning our fruit here, we get a cutting fruit. I honestly expected at the very least a legendary fruit. For some reason, the recording stopped and I couldn't show what the fruit looks like. But I was saying that besides the first skill, we would also have the click. But unfortunately, since our fruit isn't awakened, don't have the click. But I didn't remember that part. The good thing about our first skill is that when we attack in an area, we turn our hand into a fireball and can throw it at the enemy. When we hit the enemy, we deal 2040 damage. I expected us to deal a bit more damage, especially since it's a mythical fruit. The first skill we can unlock is the movement, which costs 50 mastery. When we use it, we turn into a donut that moves back and forth. It's not that fast, but compared to other movements, it's actually really good, especially if you're going up an inclined area because it goes up really quickly. But the movement doesn't deal damage. You really just use it to get around. And it's not infinite. There will come a time when you'll end up transforming back. You will have to wait for your skill to come back so you can use it again. As soon as I defeat all these enemies, I'll probably unlock another skill. There are still 4 left, but I'm sure that as soon as we defeat them, we'll unlock our third skill. And it costs 100 mastery. Let me go to another place because I've defeated all the enemies. There's nowhere for me to test. Now, closing our third skill, we create this rope that attacks the enemy, traps them, and then slams them to the ground. It's a good attack. It deals 3,500 damage. The only downside to this attack is that we can only deal damage to one enemy at a time. Even if they're really close together, we're only going to hit one. I unlocked our second to last skill and it costs 200 mastery. To be quite honest, I don't remember how this skill works, but when we use it, we transform into a donut and then attack the enemy by jumping on them. And from what I understand, when we hit the enemy, our hand becomes full of thorns. And because of the shape of the attack, I believe it's an area attack, I'm just not sure. For some reason, I ended up missing and our attack stayed in the same spot. Now, trying on both enemies, we managed to hit... Dude, for some reason, we're glitching. I'm hitting the attack in midair. That doesn't even make sense. This time, I changed the location. Let's see if the attack is going to work. I managed to hit the enemy, and we hit in an area. It really ended up hitting both of them. The range isn't that high, but it's enough for us to hit everyone. I unlocked the last skill, and this one took a long time just to get 300 mastery. But now that we've unlocked it, we can test this skill too. I'm going to test it on a single enemy first because we want to know the total damage. This skill, unlike the others, we have to hold down. And on a single enemy, we dealt over 6,000 damage. Which is a lot, especially because we can trap the enemy. Now testing on 2 enemies at the same time, I want to see what the total damage will be and if it's going to be the same. And if other enemies get close, we can hit them too. I think this is the best skill of our fruit, not just for defeating enemies, also for PvP. Now that I've completely mastered our fruit, only thing left is to awaken it. To do the raid for our fruit, we need to have a fruit worth over 1 million. Which is a lot. Or we spend 1,000 fragments, but we can only do it every 2 hours. And since I don't have any more fruits to spend because we're still going to use the domain fruit, I'm going to log in with my main account to get this help. I'm going to prioritize using fruits that I already have at the limit. In the case of Blizzard, I already have 5 and the maximum I can store is 5. So I'm going to use Blizzard, Sound Fruit, and also Buddha. But I'll still need 3 more fruits that I don't know which ones I'll end up using. I'm going to start with our Buddha fruit and buy our first Doge fruit raid. Even though I'm almost at max level, I don't have enough strength to defeat all the enemies, especially the boss. For this reason, I'm going to use my account with the Buddha fruit to defeat all the enemies. I finished the first raid and it was really tough. I almost died, but we managed to complete the mission. We're going to awaken our first skill. There are still 5 more skills for us to awaken because there are the 4 remaining skills plus the click. My main account was defeated and now we're gonna have to use this account to try to take down the boss. The only problem is that he ended up recovering all his health. For us to defeat him, it's going to be almost impossible, if not impossible. This boss here is really... He doesn't give us even a minute of peace to land a hit on him. Unfortunately, I ended up wasting a fruit. I almost got defeated again, but I managed to complete the mission. And this time, we're going to spend 2,000 fragments to unlock the movement. I hope fragments I have are enough for us to fully awaken our fruit. This Raiden is really hard to do. And keep in mind that I have the V4 race fully awakened, besides the best fighting style with the best fruit. And even so, I can't complete the raid by myself. That's already the second fruit I've wasted. And there are already more enemies than last time. So this account of mine isn't going to be enough to defeat everyone. Even so, I'm going to try because it doesn't hurt to give it a shot. But everyone has already recovered all their health. Yeah, and I've already seen that I really won't have a chance. I didn't even have a chance to escape the first attack. Finally, I managed to complete another raid, and this one will unlock our third ability. Now there are only 3 abilities left for our fruit to be fully awakened. Another raid, and this one is going to cost exactly 4,000 fragments. And this time, it's not an ability that's going to show up, it's just the click. And now there's only 1 ability left for us to fully awaken. Last ability we need to awaken, and this one costs 5,000 fragments, which is quite a lot. But we still have 10,000 fragments left in case we want to awaken another fruit. But the fruits we have left are the Dominion and the Kitsune, and neither of them can be awakened. First ability of our fruit, but now awakened. We still keep our giant hand, but this time it's way bigger, and it has this mass animation that causes an explosion when we hit the enemy, pushing us back. It's a good ability and has a really good range, besides being easy to hit the enemy. Second ability is movement. And now with the fruit awakened, we can deal damage to the enemy. It's not much, but it helps. But what really matters about this fruit, the various ways you can move around. Even though this wall is a bit slanted, if we use the movement ability, can climb it. And even if it's a straight wall, can climb that too. And the best part is that you don't need to be a shark race to walk on water. This is really good because you can end up replacing it with a boat. You use this movement to go from one island to another. The third ability works a bit differently because we have 2 ways to use it. The first way is when we're grounded, and as soon as we use our ability, we pull this spike from the ground that attacks the enemy, dealing 4,000 damage. But the other way we can use this ability is when we're in the air, aiming at the enemy, and we'll unleash this mass claw, which will create this combo, dealing over 4,000 damage. Both abilities are really good, and using them will depend on your situation. I find it easier to hit, especially to deal area damage. First ability where we hit the ground and pull out that spike because it's easier to hit all the enemies at once. Our second to last ability, before awakening, we would turn into a donut and attack the enemy with a spiked hand. The animation is going to be almost the same. We're going to turn into a donut. When we hit the enemy, we'll spin them around and then slam them to the ground. Even though it's a really beautiful ability, it only deals 3,000 damage. But the good part is that it's another ability we can use to deal area damage. So that ends up making the fruit a bit more worthwhile. And now it's time for the strongest ability, where when we use it, we create several hands and attack the enemy. And the best part is that we can hit several at once. But against just one enemy, we've already dealt almost 7,000 damage. It's really good for defeating NPCs, but especially for taking down a player, because as soon as you land that hit, they can only escape when the attack is over.
In this case, he doesn't end up escaping.
A cool effect that I ended up forgetting is that the mass fruit is not Logia in the anime. But here in Blox Streets, it works a bit differently, and we have the Logia effect. Now that I've shown the strongest ability of all, which deals a lot of damage, still one more ability for me to show. This fruit, when we awaken it, will have the click. It's not the best click of all, but every time we click, we throw this punch. The first click is a punch with the right hand. The second click is with the left hand. And the third click is with both hands at the same time. The first click deals 1,278 damage. The second click also deals the same amount. And the third click, which was supposed to be the strongest click when we use it, deals the same damage. Which doesn't make much sense. And the Doge fruit ends up being one of my favorite fruits, not just for leveling up, also for PvP.